Simon, I can't take you seriously on your other channels after Business Blaze. You seem like an idiot.
Whenever I make videos and something's different, like this, you can see the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. Most of the time, the sun doesn't shine because it's not actually shining directly in. It's reflecting off a car window. People are gonna be like, Simon, why don't you draw the blinds? And I'm like, because 99.9% of the time, there just isn't a car parked at a perfect angle. This is Business Blaze. You are here for business. And we're talking about what happened to BlackBerry. Wow, I really looked in the sun and now I can't read properly. This is why you shouldn't look in the sun. Basic information for children. Hopefully I won't go colorblind and then only be able to see blue. Then I'll start using Facebook a lot more. You get that joke? Thank you for being an OG Business Blaze legend. This is, of course, written by Danny, who writes the scripts. I'm Simon, I just read them, comment on them. One of the very best smartphones I ever had was a BlackBerry. Really, Danny, have you not had an iPhone? Samsung Master Race, smash that dislike button. Of course you must. Because your phones are so much better than iPhones, and because of that, you're also better people. It probably wasn't my all-time favorite mobile phone, though. Oh. Wait, now I'm confused. Oh, smartphone, mobile phone, different thing. That would probably be the Nokia E70. That guy from 2006. That's an ugly phone. What I loved about this clever little device is that at first glance it looked like a regular candy bar phone of the time, but when you needed to send a text message, you could easily flip up the front of the case and instantly transform the phone into a full chunky keyboard split in two halves by the screen. Ugh. Really? I don't remember this. So, does anyone remember the N-Gage? It was a mobile phone that tried to be a games console. Such a piece of shit. So, you could hold the phone sideways with both hands and type out your messages with ease rather than trying to operate everything with a single thumb. Wow! And that's one of the reasons why I was later attracted to the BlackBerry Curve in about 2009. The BlackBerry range of phones had a lot of other cool features going on beneath the surface, but I loved those QWERTY keyboards with real buttons, and I'm now sad to see that they've gone out of fashion. I have to say, as weird as it is, I also did like the physical buttons. I never had a BlackBerry, but you know, there were other devices, physical buttons, and I kind of like those. But now the touch typing is so good. Maybe it's because as a professional writer, I prefer the profoundly satisfying click from pushing down on a real button. Or maybe I just find it harder to cope with touchscreens because I've got giant sausage fingers. Even now, it still takes me about 7 frustrating attempts to type in the simplest message on a touchscreen without accidentally adding loads of completely inappropriate emojis. So, why did we fall out of love so much with real keyboards and real buttons? Well, because we wanted more real estate for screens, you know, so we could watch shit. Of course, BlackBerry phones had a lot more going for them than just keyboards. Often nicknamed the Crackberry, because users appeared to be worryingly addicted to their new devices. I'm not sure if that would fly in 2020. People would be like, oh, you're making fun of drug users. Users appeared to be worryingly addicted to their new devices. The BlackBerry was a pioneering smartphone packaged with comprehensive email capabilities, superb security, and its own unique BBM messaging service long before the days of WhatsApp. BBM sounds like a genre of pornography. That actually sounds pretty ahead of its time. That BBM messenger, because WhatsApp's obviously mad popular, and got bought by Facebook for $19 billion. My dad, I remember the first BlackBerry I saw. I was a kid, a teenager. My dad had a BlackBerry. It was this blue thing. It had a LCD, not LCD, like, what were the black and white screens cost? Or like yellow and black? They're kind of shitty, but you could get his email on there, and I was like, wow, that's cool. At BlackBerry's peak in around 2011, it controlled around 50% of the smartphone market in the US. That's a lot. And around 20% of the global market. Globally, they were trailing the likes of Samsung and Nokia, but were shifting more than 50 million units worldwide, which is nothing to be sniffed at. However, by the end of 2016, only around 200,000 BlackBerry devices were sold worldwide, and the market share had plummeted to just 0.3%. That is a brutal decline. By 2018, it was revealed that no further BlackBerry devices were planned to be launched in the future. So what exactly happened to the Crackberry? It's the question we've all been desperately searching for the answer for. Sometimes I wonder where I come up with these ideas. The story of BlackBerry. Who gives a fuck? thank you for watching. Thank you. Before we go any further, it's worth remembering that BlackBerry was only the brand name for the devices, rather than the name of the company behind them, or at least that's how it stayed for nearly 30 years. Back in 1984, wow, two Canadian engineering students, Mike Lazaridis and Douglas Fregin, formed the weird name group. No, they formed Research in Motion, or RIM. Never heard of it. Oh, maybe I have heard of it. It kind of sounds familiar. But, I mean, it's not BlackBerry, is it? Curious. Is anyone young enough watching this channel to not know what BlackBerry is or not heard of BlackBerry? Is that becoming a thing? Because I know people will now only remember smartphones. They tinkered with connectivity products, LED systems, and a film editing system, which actually went on to win an Academy Award for Technical Achievement in 1998. Wow, these guys are actually... That's pretty cool. Mike Lazaridis himself went to pick up the award, although it was during a smaller pre-Oscars ceremony, and it wasn't one of the proper gold statuettes. Nobody in Hollywood cares about the geeky stuff. I once watched the Oscars. It's really long, it's really boring. But they do one cool thing that I'm sure Mike was happy to get is if you get nominated for an Oscar, I'm pretty sure you get all sorts of free from companies because you're famous that they want to give you free stuff. Oscar gifting suite. Yeah, there's an Oscar gifting suite where apparently you can just go in and pick up whatever you want. Let's see what they have. They get a gift bag. This is from Newsweek. I should talk about this on my podcast because this is interesting. I'd like to talk about this more in depth on my podcast. My podcast is the Simon Whistler Show. I'm going to link to that below. It's probably just going to be a video of Rick Astley, so don't actually click that. What you want to do is just search YouTube for Simon Whistler Show and you'll find it. Because I'd rather troll you than promote my own stuff. Come on, Newsweek, just tell me the cool stuff. Okay, they score a gift bag with items inside worth about $50,000. Wow, I gotta get nominated for an Oscar. Now they have free weed. That's pretty great. Anyway, they got all sorts of free shit. It's pretty cool. Anyway, let's get back to this. This is actually becoming a real problem because now my face is gonna be in the sun, isn't it? I'll just stand over here. The seeds of the BlackBerry devices were planted when RIM began developing increasingly sophisticated two-way pages, gradually adding extra features such as web browsing and instant messaging until it reached a point in 2002 when they released a new model which could technically be described as a phone and the first real BlackBerry. Long before everyone was using iPhones and Android devices, the BlackBerry phones quickly evolved into the on-trend choice when it came to little plastic things that go ping in your pocket. In fact, RIM, is it RIM or RIM? I'm guessing RIM. Managed to capture two completely different core audiences with BlackBerry phones, one of them perhaps more by accident than design. The BlackBerry was primarily marketed as a serious business phone. If you were involved in the hectic cut-and-thrust world of business, then you needed the advanced functionality, security, and reliability of a BlackBerry to ensure that your email about wanting a hot jacket potato for lunch got sent to the right person in a timely fashion. I kind of do business. Like, as a YouTuber, you're also kind of running a business. I don't need a BlackBerry. I need an iPhone. Because they're the best. Smash that dislike button. But it also managed to attract another core customer base, teenagers. And that was quite a trick to pull off. Back when most people were still amazed at being able to send basic text messages to each other, the BlackBerry Messenger Service, or BBM, went several steps further by introducing group chats and giving the BlackBerry community the opportunity to send pictures, voice notes, real-time locations, stickers, and even emojis. What amazing technology. But, it was pretty, that's ahead of its time. That's cool. You can see why this kind of thing went down a storm with kids at the time. When was this again? Yeah, I was a kid in 2002, and I don't remember this. No one had BlackBerries. Everyone had like candy bar phones. By 2007, RIM was pulling in over $3 billion in revenue and a net income of $631 million. At the peak of the BlackBerry revolution, there were more than 85 million BlackBerry subscribers worldwide. However, there was another revolution on the way, and in a space of just a few short years, the BlackBerry seemed to completely fall off the radar. I hate to say it, but perhaps one of the biggest mistakes that led to the fall of BlackBerry is that they stubbornly carried on making phones for idiots like me, like Danny. I may personally miss those real QWERTY keyboards, but it turns out I'm close to being a lone voice in the wilderness fighting against the tide of evolution. Yeah, at some point you just gotta give up. I like the keyboards as well. Never into BlackBerry, But yeah, you just got to move on. As iPhones and the markedly inferior Android phones began to arrive on the scene, the industry moved towards the idea of ditching the clunky buttons and creating bigger touchscreen displays. To be fair, I get the point, and I get why the overwhelming majority of users were happy to embrace the change. Touchscreen displays are equipped with the capacity for easily switching between a myriad of menus so that the user can quickly send photos, stickers, GIFs, emojis, or whatever you like with just a few thumb presses. Someone got very heated with me in the comments about calling GIFs, not calling them GIFs. I don't know which one is correct, but more importantly, I don't give a f***. It's not important, is it? It's not important. It's not important. Coronavirus, as of the recording of this video, might be important. Terrorism, important. Economic stability, important. GIF versus GIF, it's cool. Just let it go. It's alright. In contrast, there's only so much you can realistically do with 3 rows of hardware keys, which are taking up all the room on your chunky device. I may still miss those real keyboards, but the rest of the world jumped over to the touchscreen. Unfortunately, RIM wasn't paying any attention to this new development. Very familiar to the Kodak story, which I think, as I'm recording this, is actually the video that goes out today, so I know for a fact you'll have already seen that. So, while companies, you won't have already seen it. That's very assumptive that you watch all of my videos. I meant that you could possibly have seen it, because I've talked about videos that I've made in the past when they haven't actually been released yet, and because the video release order is all f***ed up. So, while companies like Samsung and HTC were exploiting the advantages of this new technology and pushing the smartphone revolution in a new direction, RIM was largely happy to stick its fingers in its ears and stick to what it was already doing. Not often a recipe for success there. Even when RIM did eventually reluctantly experiment with the touchscreen, it did so in a hesitant and half-hearted manner. The BlackBerry Storm in 2008 was the range's first touchscreen phone without a keyboard, but it proudly incorporated a new SurePress technology, which was intended to emulate the feel of pressing and clicking on real keys on your screen. Unfortunately, users complained that it was difficult to learn how to use and it severely slowed down typing. The reason we had BlackBerrys to begin with. Much later in 2015, the BlackBerry Priv, sounds kind of Russian, was a weird hybrid of a phone containing touchscreen technology and a small flimsy keyboard that slid out from the bottom. I remember this. This was a piece of shit, right? It was meant to offer the best of both worlds, but ended up pleasing nobody. Even the CEO of the company, John Chen, looked unsure what to do with it, as he was asked to give an exclusive demonstration to Business News Network. More on that car crash later. RIM was behaving in a similarly stubborn manner with regard to the future of its BBM service and the BlackBerry operating system. Even when the company fortunes were beginning to slide, RIM felt confident that keeping BBM exclusive to BlackBerry's devices was the smart move that would save them from extinction. RIM point-blank refused permission for BBM. Oh my god, this is a lot of 3-letter acronyms, isn't it? I feel like it's American government. FBI, CIA, NSA. It's like, which one does which again? RIM point-blank refused permission for BBM to be installed on the devices of the competitors. The only way you could use this cutting-edge technology was owning a BlackBerry. And this, I get why, spoiler alert, it didn't, is kind of, yeah, okay, it didn't. But I would say this isn't terrible foresight on their part, because iMessage is totally a thing, and like when you iMessage other iPhone users, it's also nice to let me know which of my friends are cool and have an iPhone and also have more disposable income to spend on said phones. It's like a social filter. It's fantastic. Smash that dislike button. I don't actually mean that. I just absolutely love ripping into Android people who are extremely passionate about using Android, which I had no idea was a thing. This was fine until WhatsApp and other messaging apps emerged, which could easily be used on both iPhones and Android. Although BlackBerry eventually reversed its decision, it came too late. Platforms such as WhatsApp and Viber and Telegram had already taken off, leaving BBM out in the cold and largely forgotten. Another problem was the choice of apps you could install on the exclusive BlackBerry OS. RIM had refused to get on board with either iOS or Android and insisted instead on sticking to its own limited operating system. So while the App Store and the Play Store were proving to be a rich playground for third-party developers who were cooking up millions of new utilities and games, BlackBerry users were stuck with a painfully small selection of apps. Even essential social media apps like Facebook and Twitter were woefully ineffective on the BlackBerry, as you were only given half a screen to view the content. Again, the company eventually realized its mistake, abandoned its operating system, and got into bed with Android. But it was far too late. Yeah, like Kodak and their digital cameras. Far too late. Even essential social media apps like Facebook and Twitter were woefully ineffective on the BlackBerry, as you're only given half a screen to view the content. Ultimately, it appears that RAM didn't take the thought of new competition very seriously, as they adopted a surprisingly smug attitude towards the future. They genuinely seem to think that shifting all of those millions of units and attracting all those millions of subscribers meant that the BlackBerry was untouchable. It turns out that it only takes a few short years for a company once close to dominating an industry to end up quietly watching its market share shrink to zero. And while their competitors were busy exploring the next phase of the smartphone revolution, RAM preferred. Now I feel it's weird that I'm saying RAM, I just want to say RIM every time. RAM preferred to focus on fiercely protecting the exclusivity of their own existing services to the point that they fell tragically out of fashion. But is the BlackBerry completely dead and buried? Well, it's been a long time since I saw anyone using a BlackBerry. Maybe not quite. How exciting. RIM officially changed their name to BlackBerry in 2010. That'll fix it. Let's rename our company to the thing that completely failed. And new CEO John Chen oversaw a major restructuring of the company, which effectively sold off the license to produce new BlackBerry hardware to Chinese company TCL. This left the new BlackBerry company to focus on developing and licensing new software for corporate businesses, with a particular emphasis on cybersecurity. Kind of sounds like a new company. In other words, BlackBerry no longer seemed to make Blackberries. Instead, so why did they rename themselves BlackBerry? That's got to be the most confusing thing in the world. It's like, oh, where does our, what was it, corporate security system? What even is that? Who makes our alarms? Oh, BlackBerry. Kind of weird. What's that company? Yamaha. It's like, oh yeah, who makes your piano? Yamaha. Oh, who makes your motorbike? Yamaha. Same Yamaha? Yeah. Yeah. Instead, you're more likely to find them developing secure in-car software for the likes of Ford and Jaguar. I don't have a Jaguar, but I have a Land Rover, and that software sucks. I was just driving it the other day and parked it up, get back in the car. It's like, the car's completely fine, just had it serviced recently. The computer just goes absolutely haywire and just doesn't let me start the car. You press the start button and it's like,
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I had to get it towed and then pay £400 for them to fix it. You, BlackBerry. Interestingly, the share price of BlackBerry saw a massive surge when it was first revealed that they weren't making phones anymore. And following a disastrous few years, the company, you know you're not doing well. It'd be like, if I stopped making Business Blaze videos and like all of my other channels started doing really great, I'd be like, oh, I guess Business Blaze was hurting my brand. As some people have pointed out in the comments, it's like, Simon, I can't take you seriously on your other channels after Business Blaze. You seem like an idiot. No one's making you watch. But if I could, I would make you watch because then I'd make more money. Interestingly, blah, 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 blah. Following a disastrous few years, the company appears to be getting back into good financial shape again. Really? You made the software for Jaguar, and I know it's shit. Unless you didn't, and you actually just made the alarm system, which I don't know, I've never had to test. In that case, I apologize, please don't sue me. 2019 proved to be the first year for the best part of a couple of decades in which a new BlackBerry model was not released. I bet that 2018 BlackBerry was a massive hit. And many now believe that the BlackBerry Key 2, produced by TCL in 2018, will go down in history as the very last model. But I'm not so sure. You're not, Danny. It does seem like it's not really happening for BlackBerry. Based on nothing more than a little intensive research and a big healthy dollop of blind hope. That's not how BlackBerries get made, though, is it? I'm going to stick my neck on the line and predict the BlackBerry will roll into production again within the next decade or so. Maybe it will, like that Motorola released that Razr phone with the touchscreen, which looks really cool, but I'm not going to spend $1,500 on a gimmick. It's not hard to imagine how the new BlackBerry company could collaborate with TCL on a successful new model which ditches outdated thinking and looks a little more closely to the future than it does to its own past. And the next phone is still going to have a good keyboard. Oh, Danny, you are dreaming. It's only a matter of time before consumers around the world realize just how much they miss chunky keys. No, it's not. Just to be clear, I don't think this is going to happen. Danny does. Danny, I think he's wrong. Other than BlackBerry, other than a company releasing it as like a novelty. No one's going back to mini tiny keyboards. Of course, you keep the advanced capabilities of a touchscreen as well, but BlackBerry can provide an alternative sturdy keyboard option for serious business units who aren't so fussed about stickers and emojis. Or even just for those everyday users who like to get their phone out in the pub and reliably send an accurate message about what time they won't be coming home tonight. Also, I feel like when I'm in the pub and I'm a few beers down, predictive text is probably doing me a favor. Be like, coming home late. Well, I can type perfectly. Thank you, Google. And by Google, I mean Apple. Both BlackBerry and the smartphone will make a comeback one day, I'm sure. Just don't hold your breath in case I'm wrong. This has been Business Blaze, but there's a bonus cringe section, which I'm exceedingly excited to get into. Although CEO John Chen appears to be steering BlackBerry back into growth, I just want to go back to that cringeworthy moments when he attempted to show off the new BlackBerry Priv to Business News Network in 2015. There's a clip of this video that routinely gets deleted from YouTube, although you can usually find it circulating somewhere on the web. I'm not going to include it here because if it's seemingly regularly deleted from YouTube, it's probably because people are claiming it. This just purely speculation, but the BlackBerry's team will be claiming videos for copyright that have this clip because they don't want to be embarrassed by it. It's a thing that happens quite a lot, sadly. To be fair, John Chen appears to be somewhat caught off guard when a keen reporter shoves a microphone in his face and asks for an impromptu demonstration of the thrilling new device. The good news is that he holds the phone the right way up. The bad news is that he seems to falter with just about everything else. He starts off by explaining that the Priv is short for privacy, which seems to confuse the reporter, as she says it actually stands for privilege. Chen then concedes that it might stand for both. And immediately after that, they have to rebrand the device completely to be privacy and privilege. It's just in all the marketing, and privacy. He goes on to explain that the new BlackBerry Priv runs Google, which we assume is his way of saying that it runs Android. And about time too. They were only several years too late. He attempts to open up Chrome, but the phone proves unresponsive as he isn't logged into Google anyway. So he saves the day by quickly running through some in-depth technical details on the phone's specs. It's got cameras and other good stuff, he reveals, as he slides out the keyboard as if he's not sure what to do with it. Forget everything I said earlier about the BlackBerry making a comeback. Maybe it's just as well that they will stick to software. This has been Business Blaze. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched all the way to the end, you're a legend, because that watch time thing, you can smash that dislike button all you want. No one cares. The algorithm doesn't care, but if you watch to the end, it makes a difference. Thank you for doing so. I'm going to pick up this script that I've thrown around the place like an idiot, and I'll be back next time. Wow!